Hey, you. Bravo's now in Canada.
I just got chills.
If you know Bravo,
I love that.
You love that?
you know Vanderpump Rules,
Why does it have to get so complicated?
Summer House,
Don't activate me because you've not seen me activated.
Below Deck,
I'm not your friend, I'm your captain.
Top Chef,
Hi, Chef.
and Housewives. Definitely Housewives.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this.
Bravo, now available.
It's insane.
Subscribe now with your TV service provider.
Fall in Canada has never been hotter.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
I don't want to spoil for you the twists and turns of today's episode. Some stories are just better if you don't know much going in. So I will just say this to set it up. An American university is suing a Canadian woman who lives in Kitchener. It is trying to recover millions of dollars that it claims she received as a result of fraud. The woman in question denies this. She worked for that money, she says, and she earned it. All the other stuff that comes before that, though, the sex, the real estate, the investigations and online pseudonyms, that I will leave for our guest to explain. I'm Jordan Heath Rawlings. This is The Big Story. Jeff Outhit is a reporter with the Waterloo Region Record who chased down a pretty strange story, it's fair to say, Jeff?
It's a strange one, yes.
Why don't you just start by telling us who is Stephanie Saylor and what does she do for a living?
Stephanie is a woman who lives here in Kitchener, and when she was about 24 years old, I think it was 2013, she began to model on adult content websites. So she joined up to 4 of these websites in which you put yourself on the website as a model and solicit interest from people who watch your videos or connect with you on the website and pay you money.
And in particular, I guess, we're going to talk about a website called My Girl Fund. And can you just tell us a little bit about it and how it works?
Sure. Well, one of the websites she joined in 2013 was called My Girl Fund. It's a website that connects women to men, mostly. It invites customers, would be the men, and I'm quoting here from the website, to, quote, have fun talking and flirting with as many girls as you'd like, and connect with them on a much more personal level than you'd ever be able to achieve on other sites. It goes on to say, each girl is raising money to reach a goal close to her heart. Your generous contributions get her one step closer, so you can be sure she'll be very grateful for your help.
Right. And it is the contributions in particular that we're talking about, because this is where the story gets a little more interesting than the typical transfer of money for services that we'd be talking about here on the internet. So maybe just explain who is a gentleman that I guess a Saylor met with the name John Generous, and what happened to their interactions when she met him.
Sure. Well, Stephanie Saylor. Saylor had been on the site for a few years. It hadn't proved to be enormously lucrative, but she was making some money off this site and others. And early in 2016, I believe it was February 2016, she connected for the first time. She went on the site by the name of Amber, because on these sites you're not supposed to use your real names. So she posed on the site as a model named Amber. And she connected with a man who posed on the site by the name of John Generous. That's the alias he took. So they connected early in February 2016, and as I recall, he sent her, I believe, $1,000 US right after their first meeting. Now, the way this transaction happens, as I understand it, is he pays the website using a credit card, and the website takes a cut. So the website makes its money that way. It connects people and facilitates their interaction, and then takes money off the top. So if he sends her $100, for example, she might get 80 of it, and the website might keep 20. I'm just using that as an example. So he gave her as I understand, $1,000 right off the bat. And they continued to connect with each other. And he sent her more money, and then he sent her more money, $5,500 US in the first 4 days. And then meanwhile, they're still writing to each other. Now, what was interesting about this couple was that after their connection, they pretty quickly abandoned the aliases and started using their real names with each other. They connected by email, as well as eventually by Kik Messenger, by text, by telephone. They connected in a whole variety of ways. He continued to make payments through this website to her. Within the first month, he'd sent her almost $60,000 US. She was astonished to receive by what I'm reading in the email connections that they had. She wrote at one point, $50K is a lot, babe. Are you sure? I mean, that would be a dream come true and extremely helpful financially. I have a feeling that I will want to continue our relationship. So that's their first month, already tens of thousands of dollars.
How long did this relationship go on for, and how much money are we talking about here?
Well, they connected with each other from February 2016 right through to 2020, so 5 years in total. And he sent her, in the end, through this website, $5.2 million US, of which she received $4.1 million US after the website took its cut. And just to be clear also, it's not only the millions that he sent her through the website, he also sent her gifts. She took her family of 9, extended family of 9, to Disney World for a trip that cost almost $60,000. He paid for that.
Wow.
He bought her floor seats to an Elton John concert at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. He bought her playoff tickets for the Blue Jays in Toronto. Those were minor purchases compared to the $4.1 million US she received for the website, but he did a lot for her.
As an aside, did they ever meet in person during this time?
They never met in person, ever.
Wow.
They knew each other by their real names, and they had real email addresses. But as I'm working through the documentation I have, they told a few things to each other that were true, but they also he told her certainly a number of things that were not true, or hid things or misled her. He later said, from his perspective, he was playing a game with her and she was playing a game with him.
She's got $4.1 million. Where'd it go?
Where'd it go? Well, she used it for a variety of things. She started a real estate business with her husband, Tyler Maylott, called Herb Developments. They bought and sold properties around this region here in Kitchener, Cambridge, and Waterloo. They built some homes. They invested in properties. They built themselves a luxury home, or a dream home, if you will, in an upscale Kitchener suburb called Deer Ridge, right by the Grand River. That was about a $2 million home. They built it themselves. She bought herself an Audi A6 sedan, cost just over $80,000 Canadian. They did a number of things, she and her husband, with the money she received. But a lot of it, I believe, went into business ventures.
And that brings us up, I guess, to 2020. How did this all start coming out? Like, just walk us through what we eventually learned here.
Well, what happened, John Generous, as I mentioned, his real name was Ralph Puglisi. He worked at the University of South Florida for a medical association that was affiliated with the university. This is a Tampa-based university in Florida. He was an accounting manager. And she knew his name. She knew that he worked for the university in some capacity in Florida. I believe he told her that he did this because he enjoyed doing the work. He also told her he was a business person and an investor, so they were always talking about real estate and investment. He really sold himself to her, by her account later on, as a savvy investor who had a lot of money. And in November of 2020, the university discovered what had happened, which is that since about 2014, he had been embezzling money from the university using credit cards that were owned by the university but were issued in his name. These were credit cards that you would need for corporate purposes. And because he was an accounting manager at the university, or at this association affiliated with the university, And because they didn't have enough oversight, he was able to fake accounting records to conceal what he was doing when he was using these credit cards. And over the space of 6 years, 2014 to 2020, he embezzled, it was later determined, almost 13 million US dollars from the university. He actually said later that he thought it was a little bit more than that, but the actual amount they settled on in court was, I think it was 12.8 million US dollars. It was in November 2020 that this came to light. The university suddenly uncovered what he was doing. He was fired a week or two later in December 2020. And in the summer of 2021, in August, he struck a plea bargain after an FBI investigation and pleaded guilty to what in the United States they call mail fraud, which I think is a catch-all term to cover a whole variety of things. But essentially, he pleaded guilty to embezzling almost $13 million US from the university. And of this money, he did a lot of things with this money. He did some home renovations in Florida. He chartered some yachts. He went on some vacations. But mostly, he spent it on women affiliated with adult content websites, including Stephanie here in Ontario, but not exclusively her. There were some other women as well. But he spent it mostly on the women on these websites, including, as we now know, 5.2 million US sent to Stephanie Saylor.
Hey, you! Bravo's now in Canada.
I just got chills.
If you know Bravo,
I love that.
You love that?
you know Vanderpump Rules,
Why does it have to get so complicated?
Summer House,
Don't activate me because you've not seen me activated.
Below Deck,
I'm not your friend, I'm your captain.
Top Chef, and Housewives. Definitely Housewives.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this.
Bravo, now available.
It's insane.
Subscribe now with your TV service provider.
Fall in Canada has never been hotter.
Now, I know we're going to get to what the school says happened here and what he's admitted to, but first, how has Stephanie described finding out about this and what she knew?
Her position has consistently been that she did not know that he was sending her stolen money, and that she learned this in the summer of 2021, shortly before he pleaded guilty. She had not heard from him for a while. He had stopped sending her money, and then he reached out to her, she later said, to tell her that he was in trouble, that he was under an FBI investigation, and then told her that the money, all the money he had sent her, was fraudulent. And she later said, I was shocked, she said in the summer of 2021 to learn this. Now, she said they had this conversation over Kik Messenger, which is sort of online communication platform. I haven't seen that exchange. I haven't seen it in court records. She later said that she lost the exchange, tried to screenshot it, didn't have it because she wanted to bring it up again to show and prove her point that this was all news to her, that this was stolen money that he sent to her. So that's always been her position. She never knew it was stolen money.
Now, what does the university claim happened here? And this is where we get into, I guess, legal action that they are taking.
Yes, the university's position has been, both in a lawsuit it filed against Stephanie Saylor in Florida and in a current lawsuit it now has in Ontario, that she knew the money was stolen and that she knew this early on in 2016. The other claim related to that is that she agreed with Ralph Puglisi on a scheme to sort of launder this stolen money, and that they would do this by means of her sending him cash back or money back after he provided money to her through the website using the credit card. That's the university's contention. This is an unproved allegation. They've made it in court or made it in a lawsuit in Florida, and they've made it in a lawsuit here in Ontario, but it has not been tested in court, and it is denied by her.
You mentioned that Puglisi struck a plea deal. What does he say now about what was going on between himself and Saylor?
Well, after his plea deal, as part of his plea deal, he agreed to give the university back its money or whatever he could. And he also agreed, he was deposed after the plea deal about how this all happened. And it's at that point in 2022, I believe, after he was convicted, possibly just after his sentencing, he was sentenced eventually to 10 years in prison. That's when he said, we had a deal. He said it was a verbal deal. I struck a verbal agreement with Saylor, telling her this money was stolen and here's how we're going to launder it. And the idea was, according to him, that would be a 50-50 split. So whatever money he sent to her and she received through the website, she would then send half of it back to him. Now, what's interesting about this is that she did, in fact, send some money back to him. She sent him somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 US between 2018 and 2019 back to him. We published pictures of one of the checks that she wrote to him for something like $25,000 sent back to him. Her contention is not that this was any part of any money laundering scheme, but that he simply asked for her help because he needed some money, and she felt obliged because he had been so generous and supportive of her over the years. So for a period of time, she did send him back some money. But it had nothing to do, she said, with any type of money laundering scheme or prearranged agreement, and it certainly was nowhere near half the money that he sent to her. That is one of the arguments the university is leaning on in arguing that she knew what was going on.
How is it that the university never discovered this? And I mean, you mentioned they tried to do this on another site and couldn't do it. How is it that nobody flagged this?
Well, that's an interesting question. The other site is fascinating because what happened was early in 2016, when he was literally, they were still brand new to each other, but he'd sent her a fair amount of money already. They decided to try another site, which is called I Want Clips, which provides a similar service to My Girlfriend, but perhaps at better rates than My Girlfriend. Anyway, they switched to that site, and he sent her, I believe, $50,000 US in a short period of time, several weeks anyway. That website flagged that transaction as suspicious right off the bat because he was a brand new customer on the website and it was a large amount of money. So that website flagged that as suspicious, did its own investigation, and discovered that he was using a credit card that was owned by the university and not by him. So it contacted his bank in Florida about this, the bank where the credit card was out of, and the website contacted Stephanie Saylor and sent her an email saying, basically, this might be fraud. They actually used the word fraud and said he's using a university credit card that he does not own. So the university is leaning on that in part to suggest that she knew this was fraudulent from the start.
But nobody picked it up then.
Nobody picked it up. On his end, he was able to cover it up at the university. He was able to create enough of a story that the bank didn't investigate, the university never caught on. They abandoned I Want Clips and went back to My Girlfriend. And Stephanie Saylor says she was persuaded he told her a whole story about how it was a misunderstanding, and she accepted his story, that it was a misunderstanding. And not only was it did she accept the agreement that it was a misunderstanding, but it wasn't her job to be suspicious of the money he sent her. That was up to the university and up to the website. And she said, if the university doesn't seem to have a problem with this and my website is accepting it, I'm going to trust them. I'm not going to do anything about this. I heard what he said. It's not my job to question this. If it was fraud, she actually said at one point, why would the university let this go on for so long?
I mean, fair point.
That is a fair point. And I have not done any reporting on this myself, but I know that there has been some reporting in the United States on this when this fraud came to light by some American newspapers and other media outlets about how the university allowed this to happen because it went on for quite some time. And the university now says, of course, that it's updated its procedures and its checks and nothing like this will happen again. But from the outside, that's a lot of money, almost $13 million to go missing or to go sideways for over a whole number of years and not notice.
It is truly a wild story. And you mentioned there is a case against Saylor from the university up here in Canada. What happens now with that? And the university, I guess, is trying to get its money back. Is there anything left? Does she have any money to give them?
Well, the university, it sued her and just about everybody else involved in this case down in Florida in 2022. And so she made a number. So they went back and forth, her and the university, for over 2 years of litigation in Florida. That lawsuit was settled literally just this summer in July. According to the university, she agreed to pay the university $100,000 US and also agreed that she would pay the university proceeds from her real estate businesses here in Ontario based on the businesses she started with the money that came from the university. Now, shortly after that lawsuit was settled, the university has launched another lawsuit, this one in Ontario. It was filed in Superior Court of Ontario in Kitchener in August, and it names her husband, Tyler Maylott, as a defendant, as well as a number of corporations that are connected to Maylott and Stephanie Saylor and connected to some of their properties, business partners, basically. So the university is trying to get its money back. It's been trying in Florida. It's trying here. This is essentially round 2 of round 1, which would have been the lawsuit they conducted against her in Florida. Now, when they settled that lawsuit in Florida, they settled it with what they call, I think they said it settled with prejudice, which is a legal term, which means that they can't sue her again.
Huh.
And in fact, here in Ontario, she is not named as a defendant. Her husband is named as a defendant. The allegation that she knew this was stolen money and that it was a 50-50 split, again, an allegation that was never proved in court, is repeated in the lawsuit here, but she's not named as a defendant. Some of the companies, or numbered companies and other investment companies that are named as defendants, she is listed as a director, but she is not personally named in this case.
And there's no chance of criminal charges on this, or are there still?
Well, Ralph Puglisi faced criminal charges. I have seen no evidence, believe that no one else ever faced a criminal charge. He is the one who stole the money. No one else stole the money but him. So as far as I understand it, he is the only one to have faced criminal charges. But the university went after everybody in Florida. Other people, including Ralph Puglisi's family, who might have received some of this money, Stephanie Saylor, women with other adult websites. They also sued the platform, My Girl Fund, as well. They settled a number of these lawsuits this past summer, so they have a legal strategy. I don't know what it is exactly, but they settled a number of the lawsuits this summer, but then launched a new one, as I said, here in Ontario against Saylor's husband, Tyler, and firms connected to the couple. And I believe, last I looked, the university still had an ongoing lawsuit in Florida against My Girl Fund.
And we'll see what happens. And if somebody approaches you on an adult site with millions of dollars, it seems too good to be true. Maybe do your due diligence. Thank you for walking us through this wild story.
You're welcome.
Jeff Outhit of the Waterloo Region Record. That was The Big Story. For more from us, you can head to thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can also, of course, shoot us a note. Let us know what you thought. The email address is hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. And if you don't like typing, you can pick up your phone and give us a call to leave a voicemail. That number is 416-935-5935. The Big Story is in every podcast player, and that includes Seeker, Seekr. If you haven't checked it out, you might want to give it a try. You can also ask for The Big Story on your smart speaker by saying play The Big Story Podcast. Joe Fish is the lead producer of The Big Story. Robin Simon is a producer on our team. Matt Kesselman handles our sound design. Stephanie Phillips is our showrunner. Mary Jubrin is our audience development lead. Diana Kay is our manager of business development. I am your host and your executive producer, Jordan Heath Rawlings. All together, we are Frequency Podcast Network, and we are a division of Rogers. We've got a couple things in the feed for you this weekend. Another little In This Economy episode, and an episode from a while back that I think is even more relevant now, especially given what's going on down to the south of us at the moment. And then we'll be back with a fresh big story on Monday. And we'll talk then.
Hey you, Bravo's now in Canada.
I just got chills.
If you know Bravo,
I love that.
You love that?
you know Vanderpump Rules,
Why does it have to get so complicated?
Summer House,
Don't activate me because you've not seen me activated.
Below Deck,
I'm not your friend, I'm your captain.
Top Chef, and Housewives. Definitely Housewives.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this.
Bravo, now available.
It's insane.
Subscribe now with your TV service provider.
Fall in Canada has never been hotter.